Today I'm going to review for you The Answer is No by Frederik Backman. This is a super short novella, only 68 pages, and is available through Kindle. I think once it releases on December 1st. I think it's only $1.99, but maybe it's still available, the Amazon First Bonus Read. So if you can get it through that, then you might as well download it right now, because I'm telling you, this is one of those books that you need to read as soon as possible. Now, for those of you that don't know about Frederik Backman, he is kind of one of those authors that he writes in a specific style that definitely clicks in my brain. I understand his humor, I understand his references, I can draw my own parallels of, what does he mean with what he's saying, with this object, what does it mean in real life? And at the end of the book, he always leaves me with something I can work on, something I can understand a little bit better if I'm looking at from a different point of view. Is one of those books that you have a great time, you will have humor, you'll have some sad parts, you will reflect upon your life, you will reflect upon these characters, and by the end, it's like this book, or his books in particular, change you a little bit. And this one being only 68 pages, I think is the best way to be introduced to his writing. And in this book, I'm going to talk about a little bit, not only what the book is about, just the tinge of what it's about, because it's so short that I cannot give you more than that, but also the things that it made me reflect on, and the parallels that I drew myself according to the story, and it may be something completely different for you. Once you read this book, you're like, oh well, no, the frying pan means this, and this person means that, and this Facebook page means that other thing. And that's a wonderful thing about reading. It depends on where you are in your life. When you read the book, is how you will interpret all these messages that are being sent to you through a simple story that, if you just take it as face value of what it is, it's just a silly story. But if you can submerge yourself and try to find the meaning of everything, it's just not only going to be a great time, but a good way to think about things in life that maybe we're too busy to think about. Now, this story takes place in an apartment complex, which I think is Frederik Backman's way to introduce us to one plot, one problem, and different perspectives from people that are experiencing it in different ways, which is a really smart way to introduce us to these characters. So what happens is that there's a frying pan that shows up one morning by the recycling center. So the apartment board, this wonderful characters, decide to go door by door and ask the neighbors who threw that frying pan. And little by little, we start to get introduced to different characters. However, the most important one is Lucas, who is a lonely guy that he lives in his house. He's very happy being by himself, so I guess he's not a lonely person. He feels like he's doing everything right. He feels like he's happy. His life is very fulfilling, and he stays away from most of the neighbors. He's not as introverted as what is going on in that apartment, or not as extroverted that he has to talk to his neighbors. So this apartment board starts to go through different apartments and try to find out who did it. Now, that's as far as I'm going to go with the plot itself and what happens in the book. But I just want you to know that the frying pan is not really a frying pan. Yes, it is. In the book, it's a frying pan. But it really means something else. And again, this could be interpreted differently depending on what stage in life you're in. But in my own personal interpretation, the frying pan is a problem in this case. And it's a little bit beyond that. And as you read it, depending on what stage you are in life, you will give meaning to that frying pan and you will draw your own conclusions. But for the sake of this video, let's say that the frying pan is the problem. What we're going through in the beginning of this book is the idea that some people that are in power or that they have more power than you do in that situation, they are trying to find whoever did it and punish that person, and not so much worried about fixing the problem. What is the problem? Is it the frying pan? What can we do to fix it? They're not thinking about that. They're thinking that they need to find whoever did it and let the problem lay there, stay there, because that's how they deal with things. Now, throughout this short novella, there's so many things that it touches on, and I wrote a few. Life is not perfect, and what do we have to do to make it better for us, and depending on what makes us happy. Manipulation, that's a big one because it touches on social media, and it touches on social media in such a funny way that while you're reading those pages, you will laugh out loud if you get his humor, if you get where he's coming from. I just could not stop, and I have asthma, and when I laugh too hard, I kind of get out of breath, and sometimes I even get an asthma attack, and I just could not stop laughing. It was that kind of laugh that comes from the center of your chest. It comes from your lungs. It just, if you get his humor, you will understand that. If you read this book, you'll understand if this is something that you enjoy. So the power of manipulation through social media or other avenues, spite, the power of spite, the power of love, the need for people to be happy, and how most people are looking for happiness in the wrong places, like how to be happy on Google. The search for happiness, again, partners that we choose, that we hope is the perfect match for us because we're the same, and how we really need somebody that complement us and not people that are just like us. By the end of this video, I realized that if we don't deal with the problem the way we should, so it doesn't continue to happen, we start to collect problems in our lives. And this is just a parallel on something that if you read the book, you'll get. But the more that we collect those problems in our lives, the hardest it is to deal with them. And the more bitter we become because we're blaming other people for what's happening. When in reality, for some of us, we should be looking into what the root of the problem is and try to fix it. At the end of the book, you see these 3 different characters that live in this building that find whatever they were looking for, but in a way that it's very unexpected. And how sometimes the struggles that we have in our lives, and how sometimes the little issues or the things that we think makes us unhappy, sometimes we need to reflect upon them and start to realize and start to appreciate the things that we have, because when we lose them, we realize the meaning, the true meaning behind them. That's all I'm gonna say, because I feel like in this story, again, once you read it, you will draw your own parallels and you will understand it the way you need to understand it for where you are in life right now. But this is just a little bit of what I took out of this book without giving you too much to kind of ruin the plot for you, which is such a short novella. I think you should read this book. If you were ever thinking, am I gonna like Frederik Backman? Do I really want to read a 300+ page book? I'm not sure he's the one for me. Well, just read this little novella. I think that it will give you an idea of his more funny but deeper books. And of course, he has other kind of novels that are a little bit more serious, but you will still find that little humor and those little pearls of wisdom that will come with each one of his stories. And I think that if a book, especially as short as this one, with only 68 pages, leaves you with that in your heart, that just thinking about this book and thinking about the parallels and thinking about how to improve your own life, how to take things maybe not as seriously, but at the same time deal with the things as they come into your life, I think it's a great way to do it. I think that's the kind of book I want to read. And I think that's the kind of book that helps me grow, not only as a reader, but as a person. And I don't think that we get that from a lot of fiction novels that we read on an everyday basis. I cannot wait for you to read the story. I would love for you to read it. I promise it won't be more than an hour and a half, and then come back to this video and let me know how you liked it. You're either gonna love him and think he's the smartest, funniest guy ever, or you may not, but at least you'll have a better idea without investing, you know, yourself in through 300 pages. I think it's one of the funnest short stories that I've read recently, and I think you should read it too. So thanks again for watching today, guys. I truly appreciate it. If you're new around here, please remember to subscribe before you leave today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.